Hey everybody, Jeff Schneider here, and today I'm going to finish writing a solo over this random chord progression I got from ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT for a list of random jazz chords, and it gave me back something that truly makes no sense, and that's the point. I wanted this chord progression to be challenging. My job is to come up with a solo that sounds natural over these really weird chords. So I have 8 measures so far written out. I have 8 measures to go. I'll play for you the first half, and then I'll let the rest of the backing track play out so you can hear what I'm up against for these next 8 bars. Take a listen. Okay, so as I'm listening to the chords go by, I'm thinking to myself, none of this sounds familiar. There are no chord progressions, even like a couple of chords here or there where I'm like, oh, that sounds like a tune that I've played before. The first 8 measures actually had some gifts in it. That first chord change there, the G7 flat 9 going to C major 9, that's obviously a familiar sound. Even the C major 9 going to E flat 13 sharp 11, this sound. I mentioned in the last video that that sounds like giant steps, but in this next 8 measures, it's really all over the place. So I'm gonna have to work out some melodies, and the key word there is melodies. Just because I'm coming up with a solo doesn't mean it doesn't need to be melodic. So as a side note, when I talk about improvisation, my definition is spontaneous composition, which means I need to follow the rules of composition, or at least the principles that make a good composition good. So let's pick up where I left off. I have this D9 idea going to this A flat major 7 sharp 5. I'm just noticing here that I actually need to update the chord symbol here with a 7. Now, by the way, if you want to download the sheet music, you can get it for free in the description below, and I'm transposing it for other instruments like alto saxophone and trumpet, E flat instruments, B flat instruments, bass clef. I'll even include the note names in the note heads in case you're not that familiar with reading sheet music yet. It's a good thing to learn. All right, let's see here. So, all right, now the other thing I'm thinking about here is the first 8 bars that I've written so far, it's all in this sort of register right in here in terms of like how high, how low are the notes. It's right in this area here. So what I want to do is mix things up and get a little bit higher actually. Let's do it like an arpeggio. That's a good way to get into a new register. So the other thing I'll try here is a little bit of anticipation. I have this chord right here, this A flat major 7 sharp 5 going to C sharp minor 9. It's kind of a weird sound. So I'm going to take my thumb on the pencil. I like to use this analogy of drawing. If you draw a line on a piece of paper with a pencil, you can soften the edge by mushing your thumb on it. And we're going to do the same effect here by starting the C sharp minor part before it actually arrives. So we have this D on the A flat major 7 sharp 5. And then while the A flat major 7 sharp 5 is being held out in the rhythm section, I'm gonna go right in with some kind of arpeggio on the C sharp minor 9. Something like, I don't know, we could start on the 3. Now, it sounds a little bit weird when I do that, and that's because the notes I'm playing in the right hand don't really belong to what I'm playing in the left hand. As I said, I'm playing C sharp minor 9 over the A flat major 7 because once the C sharp minor 9 chord finally arrives in the rhythm section, it all kind of makes sense after the fact. Maybe we go up to the 11, and you can hear how when I do resolve it, it sounds really nice. So we have that's kind of nice. Let's do that. So we'll just go 8th notes, and that will resolve right into the F sharp on the C sharp minor 9. That's the 11. F sharp is the 11 on that chord. All right, let's think about rhythm here. So we have ba 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 boo ba. Be ba do ba, de boo ba do ba, be ba de do ba. Maybe something like that. Maybe I develop this rhythmic idea Again, I think thinking about rhythm first is always a good idea, especially when the chord changes are weird like this and you don't necessarily hear pitches over these chords. Rhythm first, rhythm first. Ba ba de ba do da, de ba de ba do ba. All right, so we have do ba do ba, be ba boo ba do. We'll go down the arpeggio. Why not? So from the D9. Ba, 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 boo, boo, ba. Okay, what's that note going to be there? We have the F13 coming up in this next measure. So F13. So we have to come up with a note here to fill this rest. So we have boo, ba, doo, ba, 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 boo, boo. Maybe we go up to a G. That's nice. All right, so I did G. That's the 9 of F13. In a way, we're doing the same thing here that I did before. This is still anticipation. So right in here, this G sharp, B, D sharp, F sharp, that's anticipating the C sharp minor 9. And then when I go to this G, and I accent this G, holding it out, the G is not really in the C sharp minor scale. As you can see here on my chord scale charts, there's no G natural in this scale. But the G, of course, fits the F13. It's the 9. By the way, if you haven't already downloaded those chord scale charts, you can get them for free, linked in the description below. All 12 keys, major and minor. You can see how the scales relate to the chords. It's such a great resource, and I highly recommend you have that at your side so you can reference scales like that and see that there's no G in C sharp minor, but there is in F13. So it sounds like this. Okay, so what am I doing on that descending arpeggio? Well, I have the 9 there of F13. There's the 7, and then B natural, that's the sharp 11, or the flat 5, and then back to G, which is the 9. Let's go back up again. So we have ba, just the rhythm, ba ba do ba, be ba dee ba do ba, be ba dee ba do ba. Let's do the same thing. Whoops, I realized I have to put a quarter note here. And then the next chord is B7 with a sharp 9 and a flat 13, so this kind of altered sound. All right, so what do these chords sound like? B7 sharp 9 flat 13 and F13 aren't actually that different. If I play this chord right here, which is an F13 with the sharp 11, and I put a B underneath it, that's essentially the same chord. It's B7 sharp 9 with a flat 13. F7 and B7 are a tritone apart. If you've ever heard me talk about tritone substitution, you might have heard me talk about how these two chords are very, very similar. They share the same third and 7. F7 has an A as the third and an E flat as the 7, and B7 has a D sharp or an E flat as the third and an A as the 7. So it's flipped. But the point is we have to come up with something that sounds good. At the end of the day, no matter how much we think about the theory, the question is, how do we make it sound natural? I think staying on the G could work. Let's just hear what that sounds like one more time. I think I'm just gonna play it again. And then maybe go up to the A flat for the D flat major 7. I think I'm just gonna repeat this arpeggio. This idea right here, and it's gonna work. Why not? Well, maybe it'll work. We have to play the whole thing in context. That's always the key thing. Is you might like the way it sounds in this little shell here, but if you break out of that and you hear how it sounds in the context of the entire solo, you might change your mind. So I'm gonna write it in here, then we're gonna play the whole thing and make sure it still sounds good. So it's the same arpeggio. We're gonna do that G tied over, and then what I was thinking was, oh wait, I did it again. We got to make this a quarter note. And then instead of anticipating on that and of 4, that ba ba dee ba do ba, let's mix it up here. We've already done that figure a few times at least. We anticipated the end of 4 with this F sharp. We did it on the G. We did it on the G. So let's change it up this time and just come right on the downbeat with that A flat. Now I'm not sure what's going to happen after the A flat, but What I like there is we have the rhythmic repetition and we have this nice voice leading. The F sharp, which is the 11 of C sharp minor 9, this sound right here. The F sharp resolves up to the G and the F13, this sound right here. And then you keep the G for the B7. And then the G resolves up to A flat for the A flat major 7 chord. So things like voice leading, rhythmic repetition, those are two really powerful techniques for making a weird chord progression sound totally normal. You can kind of justify the strangeness of the harmony by the normalcy of the melody. And by normal, I just mean concrete. Our ears like the sound of patterns and the sound of smoothness. And when you have this F sharp to the G, to the G, to the A flat, that's voice leading, but on a melodic level. I call it melodic voice leading. If you've ever studied arranging or piano voicings or guitar voicings, any of that kind of harmonic arrangement, you've probably heard about voice leading, where you move from one chord to the next as smoothly as possible. We're doing the same thing here, but as I said, on a melodic level. If you've ever studied something called guide tone lines, this is a similar principle. You're coming up with a simple line with just basically one note per chord and finding a smooth way of getting from one chord to the next without having to change that melody note much at all. So here we go up from F sharp, up a half step to G, stay on the G for the next chord, which is B7, and then go up to the A flat, just a half step to get to the 5th of D flat major 7. Guide tone lines, very powerful technique. And then what we've done is we've kind of built this line around this more static guide tone line, and we're using the arpeggio to help essentially decorate this skeleton. But the question is, well, there's two questions. What comes next? But also, first of all, does it sound good in the context of the rest of the solo? So let's back it up to the beginning, and I'll play what we have so far. Okay, so here are my thoughts. I like the way the second half sounds on its own, but the abruptness of switching from the first half to the second half is bothering me. Now, I think I can fix it without having to change too much. I think part of the issue is the rhythm, actually. Okay, so it's this G sharp right here. Beat 3, starting the line on the downbeat on beat 3, is causing a problem. And I think it has to do with that pencil line analogy, where it's too clear a line, it's too abrupt, it's too hard of an edge. So what we need to do is rub our thumb on that so that it smears. And to do that in a musical sense, we're going to actually start on an upbeat. So let's start on the and of 2 instead. We're going to make this a dotted quarter note. And all I'm going to do here is add a, let's do an E natural, which is going to be the 3rd of this C sharp minor 9. So it's going to sound like this, just the melody from that D9. That helps. By not starting on the downbeat, we lose that hard edge. And just for fun, we can try to pick up into the line even earlier. Maybe instead of this dotted quarter note, we just make it a quarter note, and we do a D sharp there, which could be kind of cool because it's almost like we're doing this voice leading thing now, D, E flat, E, this chromatic scale. Just like I was saying before, that smoothness is pleasing to the ear. Let's hear what it sounds like. Ooh, that's really nice. I like that a lot. There's a lot of rhythmic surprise. I'm starting this pickup in a somewhat unexpected place, starting it on beat 2. We have ba-do, ba-ba-do-da, boo-ba-do-ba-do-ba. That's interesting. Let's hear what that sounds like with the rest of the solo. I'll start from B minor 11. like this. We've gotten rid of that hard edge, and now we're transitioning into the new material a lot more smoothly. We've done that with rhythm. We have this arpeggio that's getting us into a new register. So there's a lot of good stuff happening here. So the question is, how do we finish strong? We've got this arpeggio figure, this repeated rhythm. How do we get out of this and somehow wrap up the last 4 measures of this solo? Picking up into the C sharp minor 9, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Be ba dee a do da, de ba dee ba do ba, be ba dee boo ba, de ba dee ba do boo da, de ba do ba, boo ba. That's the first thing that comes to mind, this ba de ga do ba, boo ba. Let's try it out. Sometimes that first idea is the best one. So we have I'm using my ear. I'm hearing the rhythm first, and I'm also hearing these notes and transcribing them as I go. Okay, this B flat here, will it work on the next chord, which is G minor 11? You bet it will. That's the 3rd. So let's go for it. Bum. And then we had baby boo, and then a quarter note, bum, boo. Oops, that should be an 8th note. So we have boo ba boo ba doom bum, bum ba boom boom bum, bam ba boom boom bum, ga da doom boom bum bam ba da boom boom boo da. Okay, loving that. So we have this release into the G minor 11. I'm going to play the whole thing with the backing track because I want to make sure that we're not straying too far from this vibe that we've created thus far. So here it is from the top. Okay, it's pretty cool. I still think that transition from the A flat major 7 sharp 5 chord to the C sharp minor 9, there's a little bit too much of a break. It feels like we're in a slightly different solo now, but maybe that's because I broke this video up into 2 parts and should have done it all in one. It's not the end of the world, but if I were to do it all over again, I'd probably try to infuse the new material with the existing material a bit more, so it doesn't sound like this distinct break between the first 8 measures and the second 8 measures. But it's all right for now. Let's finish off strong here. So starting on the B7. So that could be interesting. This A is the 9 of the G minor 11 chord, going to G, which is the sharp 9 on that E7 altered. Bum, bum, bum. That's kind of nice, but I've been hearing a lot of G already in this solo. I've played a lot of G in this solo already, meaning right in here, we've got a G, then we hit it again right here, and then to play it one more time, it's too much at that point. It's kind of like when you're writing a paper and you use the same word too many times in close proximity. You want to spread out these notes. If I hear too much G, it's going to get old to me. I want to hear something different. So maybe not the G there. What about a different note that works on that E7 altered? So we have boom, bam, ba, doom, bam. That's kind of nice, landing on that D. Boom. Bam, bam. Let's put that in for now. So we have boom, da. So we have a half note. I'm hearing bum, bum, ba da, ba da, ba da. Again, repeating rhythms. Really good technique there. Bum, bum, ba dum, ba da. That's nice. Again, I'm using my ear here. I'm not thinking about notes in this case. I'm hearing the notes first and figuring out what they are in my head. So this is a G, ba, da. This is an 8th note G. Come on. 8th note, ba, da. Boom, da, da, dum, ba, da, da, da. Ba, 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 da, da, da. D, ba, ba, do, di, do, tie this, ba, quarter note, ba, E, C, no, C, A, C, A, and then the A obviously works on an A13 sus, A13 sus. This sounds good in that small context, but I gotta blow it up. I gotta hear what it sounds like. I'm just gonna play the melody or the notes without the chords, coming from the second half here, so the new stuff on this E flat, picking up. One. I like that. I like how that sounds. That's the core of the melody, believe it or not. There's a lot of other stuff around it. But just like that guide tone line is a skeleton, this little repeated idea, it's not the exact same thing because although the rhythm is the same, the pitches are different. We go up right in here like a question, and then we answer it right here with the answer going down. Let's finish it out. So we have the G minor 11, and this chord, something like that, or and then maybe I do an echo of that. So that rhythm again. G minor 11, I'd like to repeat the same two notes, but the C natural on the A13 sus is not going to sound that great. It's not the end of the world. Not the best. But the A natural on the F minor 6, it's not going to fit. So we have to figure something else out there. I still like the rhythm. I like echoing that rhythm. Ba-da. Ba-ba-boom. That could work. I like that because it's kind of calming down the entire chorus. If this were like a one chorus solo, just 16 measures total, we have this establishment of the melodic idea at the very beginning. It's very much developed. You can hear the connection, the glue between the phrases. And then about halfway through, we have a more climactic moment. We get into a higher register here. We have this repeated arpeggio spanning a great distance. And then we kind of chill out a little bit and come back down into the lower register, and it's just a little bit simpler. If you just look at the rhythms alone, you can hear there's a lot more activity in the middle, and then it calms down at the end. So that's just a classic story arc, right? Starting somewhat simple, kind of soft, building, the energy increases. We do that a number of ways, rhythmically in terms of the register on the instrument, and then we bring it back down. We close that, or we don't close the arc, but we kind of come back down off of that climax. And you know, when you think in these ways, not just in terms of the nitty-gritty notes and rhythms, but you think in terms of like, are you creating an evolution of energy? That's going to make your solos sound a heck of a lot better. If you're always in the weeds there, like I've been saying again and again, you have to back up and make sure the whole thing sounds good as a whole. And the only way to do that is, one, to be thinking in that way, but also if you're writing a solo or writing anything, to constantly be playing through the whole thing, making sure it sounds good. That's what we're going to do one more time before we go. And again, if you want to download this sheet music, it's linked up in the description, so be sure to check that out. Let's play it one more time before we go. So there it is. I hope you guys got something out of this. If you want to check out another video, click on right over here. I'll see you over there, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.